p.m. Eastern Time, only on Revolution Radio. Oh, and you don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Hi everybody, it's me, the Fedge, host of Inside the Eye Live. Before the Sunday mainstream media political pundit talk shows, there is Inside the Eye Live, where we break down some of the weekly mainstream media talking points before the talking points even get aired. Add in some entertaining stories, weather, cats, intriguing and informative guests, and you get one of the most listened to Saturday morning streaming media political talk shows going today. And it's all right here on our flagship station, Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. So join me, the Fetch, for Inside the Eye Live every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern. It is truly intelligent media for the politically aware.
Welcome to Sacred Matrix, a divine paradigm of love and universal consciousness, with your host, Janet Kira Lessin and Dr. Sasha Lessin.
Together, we transform the world.
And now, here are your hosts, Janet Kira and Dr. Sasha Lessin.
Everyone, and welcome to the Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I'm your host, Janet Kira Lessin, with my incredible co-host, Dr. Sasha Lessin. And today we are going to interview another couple, Kawaunee, Lapseritis, and Kelly Lapseritis. Got to pronounce that right. Kawaunee is a holistic health consultant, master herbalist, and master dowser with background in anthropology, psychology, conservation, and holistic health. His academic degrees are from Greenfield Community College, University of New Hampshire, University of Wisconsin. He attended Williams College in Williamstown, Massachusetts, and he taught anthropology for 1 year at North Adams State College, and later taught dowsing and psychic development at the Wisconsin Society for Psychic Research in Milwaukee. As a world authority on the Bigfoot Sasquatch phenomenon, he has meticulously researched the subject for the last 55 years. Kawaunee is also a social scientist and both a Sasquatch and ET contactee. Kelly is a clairvoyant and contactee for souls of all worlds, dimensions, and levels of consciousness. Her gift of intuition allows her to help spirits and the living as a spiritual life coach and wellness educator by sharing universal truth, love, and ancient wisdom from her guides. She practices natural healing through the use of herbs, energy, and shamanics, including crystals and essential oils. Kelly has been a lifelong experiencer of the paranormal, including extraterrestrials, Sasquatch people, angels, and ascended masters, and other spirits behind the veil. The Sasquatch people introduced her to her husband, Kawaunee, on 12/12/12, and they married 7/27/14 in eastern Washington, where they now live with her son and their hairy friends and family. And Kelly is a co-owner, writer, and editor for Comanche Spirit Publishing alongside her husband. Kelly is currently writing her first book about her experiences with the paranormal and messages from our ancient ancestors and the Earth Keepers, which will be published in 2015. And before I bring on Kelly and Kawaunee, what would you like to say about the listeners?
This is a really important presentation because Kawaunee has got the depth of background to reinforce what Lloyd Pye has been telling us with such a great assertion that Darwinian macroevolution is false and that Earth has been terraformed, and we are preceded here on this planet by intelligent hominoids, the ancestors, Pi says, of Bigfoot, that is, Homo erectus. Anyway, Kawaunee knows a lot more about it than we do, and we're here to learn from him.
And welcome to our show, Kawaunee and Kelly.
Yes.
First of all, are you there?
Yes, thank you for having us.
Yes, we are. We're very grateful to be here.
We love having you. I want to first know a little bit more about this meeting, this directed meeting that you had. How did you meet? And what made you decide that you were in love and wanted to get married? And what we do is women first, so you can either decide to go first or tell Kawaunee to go first.
Okay, well, yeah, I'll tell the story then. It's really beautiful. It all kind of really started with a dream. I had just heard about him and this, about the Sasquatch people and his books and things, and I had ordered his books, and I had a dream one night where I was standing outside of a cave entrance, and he came out of the cave and said, "Hey, Kelly," and I looked over at him, and he said, "Come here and follow me. I have something to show you." And he walked back into the cave, and without thinking anything in the dream, I just followed him, knowing that it was going to be, something magical. And really, that was the end of the dream. But I knew that there was much more to it. And, I just felt pressed to the need to call him and to explain, some of my experiences. And so I called him, and he was a great mentor to me for, a few months. And then the Sasquatch people told me after another really marvelous dream that that we were soulmates. And so I was really nervous to tell him that, because that's not where our phone relationship was at all. We'd only really spoken on the phone a few times, but I wrote him a letter about this dream that I had. And then he kept getting sign after sign and confirmation. And after that, and I did too, the Sasquatch kept going to different contactees from all over the world, and talking to, their guides and delivering a message to Kawaunee to let them know that Kelly is his soulmate and that we should be together and everything like that. So it was just really overwhelming. I like to say that the Sasquatch played Cupid with us, really, because otherwise neither one of us would have ever thought that, we would have been a match. So we decided to try to get to know one another, and over the months we fell in love.
Oh, yeah, so tell us about the actual meeting. So you were on a phone, long-distance type of relationship. When did you actually meet in person?
It was almost 11 months. Yeah, it was almost 11 months after we had first spoken. And he flew into Branson. I lived in northwest or north central Florida. That was a long time ago, in Arkansas. And so he flew into Branson to meet me, and we spent, some wonderful time together and really connected, and spent time in the wilderness with our Sasquatch family and everything. But it was pretty immediate, our love for one another. It was just instantaneous, and we were overwhelmed. We already knew how we felt about each other over the phone, but it's always a different story in person. But we just knew the instant that we met that, oh yeah, this was meant to be. We're so much alike.
Yes, for myself, I was a little suspicious, more than a little, and it took, 6 different forest people from 6 different areas through contactees calling me up and saying, my Sasquatch mentor said to tell you that you and Kelly get along great, or you and Kelly are soulmates, this kind of thing. And I thought, what's going on here, kind of thing. And I, in time we kept talking, and it was started out a few days a week, and right away every day, and then 2 or 3 times a day we would talk on the phone and sending baby pictures, high school pictures, that kind of thing, and to see how real it is. And of course, like I said in the beginning, I thought she was just a groupie there, but in a sense now she's my favorite groupie.
Right.
Wow. So tell us, go back to you, Kelly. When did you know you were in love with Kawaunee? What was that moment? And then we'll ask Kawaunee to share. So it might be different times. A lot of times with couples, it's not the exact same moment that you fall in love and realize that you are beloved. But when was it for you? And what were you thinking? What was going on?
Well, guess it's hard to say. I mean, really, I feel that I fell in love with him before I ever even met him. And it's just because of the way that my life had radically changed and the way that I had, grown spiritually and everything because of his help. So, I felt like I was in love with him before we even met. But once we met, I guess probably it was 3 days into the first time that we met that it was his birthday. And it was really just a magical day all around. And I think that's when I knew for certain that we were really in love and we're really going to spend the rest of our lives together.
Yes, as a matter of fact, on my birthday, we were sitting watching a movie in front of a fireplace, and an ET said, "Come outside right now." So we quickly put on our coats and ran out onto the porch, and there were 2 spaceships right there in the opening of between trees, giving me a birthday salute.
Lovely. And so was that the first moment you realized you were in love with Kelly?
I realized it sooner, but I wouldn't admit it until I met her. So,
Yes. That happens sometimes.
I just wanted to be absolutely sure, because it was, in a sense, this may sound a little strange, but too magical. Things just happened too good, too soon, too everything, and it was falling together as the more I let go, and I was knowing it was real from my heart, but still that little sprinkling of suspicion, and I wanted to be sure everything was real for me, and of course it was and is.
That's lovely. I've heard of the East orchestrating relationships. In fact, I think there was somebody orchestrating even my parents for, going back in time. Are you familiar with that theory that sometimes they want certain people to get together? And if so, what's your purpose? I mean, there's the obvious, but is there even more reasons behind why they want you to get together?
Oh, yes, certainly. We've spent many lifetimes together, and we're more than just soulmates. We are twin flames. We're of the same soul. And so we're finally reconnecting in this lifetime to fulfill our purpose. And, we are, light workers and here to heal and teach others and, to bring them closer to God and to bring them the message of truth of the universe, and tell them about the Sasquatch people, because that seems to be a subject that many people are very interested in right now, for one, but another is that so many people are really connecting with the Sasquatch people on a spiritual level and want to understand that better. And so, yes, we're brought together in this lifetime to become, a more powerful source to do that.
And to do projects for the Sasquatch people and the ancient ones and the star people, because they can't just step out and do that, because we're a very violent race of people that want to shoot anything that looks different. So, we've already gone through that with the First Nations people, the Afro-American slaves, that's how horrific all that was. And then what we did to the Chinese when they came over to build railways. So that attitude from Europe came along, and it's I was naive. I thought all this would heal in time and so forth, and it doesn't. That attitude seems to prevail, and it is being superimposed on the forest people and on the star people, the ETs. That attitude of aggression, of dominance, of that we're better, we're more superior, when all that is just an illusion. They said that, and I saw it way years ago because of my background in anthropology and because I traveled and lived all over the world. So we are in big trouble, and they're here trying to get the point across that the planet's dying and what we're doing, but I feel it's maybe too late. We're just not listening. But they want us to get the message out. The Sasquatch researchers are focused more on proof and material things rather than on the message behind the phenomena. And who are these people culturally and spiritually? But they don't even view them as a people. It's something to be shot or to get pictures of and exploit and sell them and make money. And they won't have any part of that. And this is part of their truth and how we feel as well, Kelly and I.
Well, and I'm really glad that you're here working as a couple. Dr. Lesson and I have been working as a couple for 18 years now plus. And there are other couples like the Rinks and Janet and Gordon Giannotto. And so there are some couples out here doing intense spiritual work in their own specific genres. What I wanted to go back to, and then I'll let Dr. Lesson ask the next question, was you were talking about the attitude. Do you have a connection with the Anunnaki and the Sasquatch? Do you see any kind of connection? And maybe it's polarized. Were they used as part of this hybridization program? Are you familiar with any of that stuff?
The answer to that is I don't know, and that I do know they are involved in a lot of the genetic engineering, but the Sasquatch and the ancient ones don't sit down every morning over coffee and let us interrogate them for a few hours. They share information and spoon feed us, but they told us and other people that they trust us, so they just want so much information, whatever they give us, to go out into the outer world, to the public. So we're not concerned about other researchers and their monster hunting. That's just foolishness and very immature thinking. So we want to dispel that, because the reality is that they're an evolved people, and they're interdimensional, just like fairies that are real, and little brownies, and some of these flying humanoids and many other strange things that we see are them coming through from other parallel worlds, not just one, but from other dimensions. And some of these have ETs that are from other worlds, have also, again, access to several dimensions. So this makes these people very complicated, and it complicates what science and what lay researchers are trying to do. So we don't try to get proof. We just, if there's any proof to be given, they'll give it when they feel like it, either to us or someone else. We don't care. We are enjoying what we are doing and wanting to share that, with the public at large, and feel that's their message is important. Basically stop warring. They don't murder people like we do. They don't start wars. They don't destroy the environment that sustains them. So they're more human than we are. They're about 100 times more evolved. But because our race apparently is very racial, very bigoted, and they look at the physical body and see this hairy giant, and it becomes an instant monster kind of thing. So anyway, they find it offensive, and so do we. And we just, we're not here to butt heads with anyone, just to share.
Right. And that's the energy here. We're just sharing information and piecing together the story. We have a lot of researchers with other stories, and we find that there's a strong correlation. Dr. Wilson, do you have a question? I had one about, are they able to manifest in 3D reality? Are they able to breed with humans? There's some stories about one of the I don't know what they're called in Russia, but they were able to breed. Anyway, I don't have the story. Dr. Weston just stepped out of the room. But go ahead. Are they able to manifest in 3D reality?
Yes, very much so, and being totally physical. In other words, they've touched me 5 different times, and they walked up and were invisible and reached out and touched me on the shoulder, on the arm, and so on. And once, this is back in 1991 when I was living in Tucson, Arizona. I was living in Muhammad Ali's castle, a part of his castle that I rented, and I was working a lot then, and coming home and not really doing anything. And sometimes I would catch a show or the news or something while I'm eating. So they advertised there was going to be a UFO documentary put on by Henry Winkler. And back then there were almost none. And so I said, well, gee, I'd like to really see this. And it was in November, I remember. And so I put it on my calendar so I wouldn't miss it to make sure I didn't have any appointments in the evening that would cut into that. So I sat down, I shut off all the lights in my place and just relax and watch this documentary. And in the beginning they said, well, the first 15 minutes would be close encounters of the first kind, when they see a spaceship at a distance and so forth. And he went on to the second kind and so on. And finally when he said, and then finally, the last quarter, 15 minutes it'll be close encounters of the fourth kind, where we meet the aliens. And when he said that, this giant hand grabbed me around the waist, and I went off. I swear it could have been close to a foot off that chair. It was completely quiet. I'm staring at this. I can't wait to see the show. This is in 1991. And then laughing of 2 Sasquatch in the background, just laughing like crazy. And so they watch over me and interact with me, but they at times maybe get a little bored, and they are known tricksters, as serious as they can be during serious subjects, but in between times they are definitely tricksters. So this is one of the times that they did this interdimensionally.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. It's interesting. A couple of my teachers, Zechariah Sitchin and Lloyd Pye, have talked about the physical remains of Homo erectus as being very likely the ancestor of the various varieties of Sasquatch around. And then Lloyd Pye has shown by looking at bones and these plaster casts of Sasquatch feet, is that that we could not have evolved out of each other. But what Sitchin says is that there was genes taken from Homo erectus females that were added to the Anunnaki genome in order to create us. I just wonder if you have any talks with them about their ancestry, and what do you reckon? If you haven't yet, it's questions to them.
Yes, they told me that they would clear some of the mysteries up on this sometime soon. So that's in the very near future, I take it. And they wanted me to write about it.
Wonderful.
But one of the things that people don't understand is that there's several different types of forest people that are not Sasquatch, but yet at a distance, or especially if they're walking away, people label them Sasquatches when they're not. One of those beings is the ancient ones, and those are the ones with the human face. They don't have a sagittal crest like a Sasquatch does. They have round heads. They don't have an ape-like face. They have a human face. Their arms are in proportion to their bodies, like ours, rather than down to their knees like the Sasquatch. So I been interacting with them for many, many years as well, actually for a total of 36 years of this whole thing. But this particular woman named Haloti, and they have their own language. The ancient ones have their own language, and the Sasquatch also, it's a different language. It's their own language. And why? Because they're a people. They're a people. So I asked Haloti about trying to figure out this connection, and she said, you were us before the last ice age. And I just thought, what? And I was trying to figure this out, and it took quite a while, and I was really careful with this, but I'm positive she was talking about DNA.
Yeah.
That they took DNA because they have human faces, just like us. It's just quite remarkable. And got hair all over their bodies. So the giantism and hereditary giantism and the hair was removed in the genetic engineering. I mean, it is something like this. I mean, I come from a Darwinian perspective, and yet they told me all this stuff back in 1985, a lot of it to start with, and I was just scratching my head, saying, how could they come up with that? What's that about? But they said they were brought here millions of years ago by their friends, the Star People. And I said, well, what about the hairless giants? And they said, well, they came much later. They were seeded much later when your people were seeded. And when they said seeded, I knew what they meant, but I didn't buy it. And a month later, I received the book from a friend, The 12th Planet by Zecharia Sitchin, and then things started to gel. So
well, that's what makes. And Lloyd was. We had an interview with Lloyd Pye about 6 months before his death, and he was saying that and Dr. Lesson and Lloyd were discussing about the seeding that's been going on, and you can see it through the eons, the ages. I wanted to, Sasha, for you to ask Wani about the Russian, I don't know what species it was. Apparently there's a number of different species.
Okay, yeah.
What was the one in Russia? And
her name was Zana.
Zana. What breed was she of the Sasquatch?
I've never asked
Dogway.
Yeah, I've never asked them. What?
Pardon?
I never asked what tribe she was from or anything from them. I guess there's so much that goes on when they deliver a message. They come and then they go. It's sometimes you just don't have time to think back. Oh, let's see, But that would be an excellent question, and certainly to get some answers of, the Russians researchers believe that it's Neanderthal, Homo neanderthalis. So that's certainly possible. We do interact. In fact, Igor Bortsev was just email. We've just emailed each other the last couple of days discussing things. But there is several lines like that of descriptions of different beings that I don't know how to quite piece together yet. And hopefully that when I go to live with them, they said they would explain all this to me.
Right. The story is that named Zalma, and they captured her, and she was able to breed, and she had 6 babies by human males. 2 survived, and the ancestors of many people in this village in Russia. So that means they're the same species because they're able to copulate and create children through natural procreation.
Right. In other words, they have 46 chromosomes just like us because they are us. They're a people in spite of, again, how they look.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
They had a regular practice in these backwards villages of capturing and enslaving Sasquatch. They break their spirit, and then they were the village slave.
They've told me before that I know for sure that the ancient ones have bred with humans, but I don't know about, the Sasquatch people and some of the other races. but that the ancient ones, we are basically them reincarnated. So we do have some of the same DNA. It's just that, our DNA has been changed and altered throughout the time. So we're not quite the same, but they said that, like Haloti told Kawaunee, is that we are them before the Ice Age.
What made the Sasquatch choose you two as their ambassadors?
Well, we're still learning some of the reasons why, but it appears that, we both have ancient souls of, ancient ones, and we're highly connected, in that community. But we've also been told that we were once a high priest and a high priestess together over some of the Sasquatch clans. And so that's the reason that, we've come together to help them with this once again, and they help us.
Yes, a lot of this to me, as a social scientist with a string of degrees and everything, but it sounds science fiction and even fantasy, but back in the mid-'80s, the Sasquatch and the ETs would discuss with me about reincarnation and past lives and how important it is to understand that. And I went to a party one night. It was a dinner party, and with attorneys and businessmen and all that back in 1984 when I was living in Oregon. And when the very next morning when I got up, an ET said to me, "Gee, we enjoyed listening in on you last night at the party." And he said, especially when you're talking about past lives. And then he chuckled. And I said, "Well, what's funny?" And he said, "Well, when people say, well, I was a little girl around a Christmas tree, or I was in England at that time or something, that it's nice, but should not be the focus. That you must understand," he said, "that our soul weaves in and out of physical bodies on different planes. If we are spiraling upward in a positive way towards the Godhead kind of thing, they said it's really all one life, where we see it as one life here, one life there. But this is why we're doing what we're doing now, because Kelly and I have let go and let our soul selves, a part of our God self, come to the fore, and to let go of a lot of negative experiences here and to heal from that in order to move on. Because everyone who's in these bodies that we borrow here is to learn lessons and to move on. And some people get it right away and some don't. And we're all subject to their moods as much as ourselves. If there's wars going on and we don't want war, well, we're still stuck with a war around us, kind of thing. But anyway, that's important, I think, that understanding that they see some of these things in a very important light. And I have gone into that arena where years ago I thought, well, this is too airy-fairy and all of that, but not anymore. I just go with the flow, and it just keeps blossoming.
Well, we had Peter Smith from the Newton Institution, and they've done 30,000 life between lives regressions, taking people to their multidimensional selves and the awareness that they are simultaneously exist in many planets and many incarnations, many forms, and many dimensions. So that correlates with what the so-called scientific research is discovering through these cataloging all these life between lives hypnotherapy regression or progression sessions. So I love that. And I also want to say you work with the dead, Kelly, and I work with the dead as well. Mm-hmm. So they're telling us the nature of reality, which is, I'd like to know more about that. Can you tell us a little bit more about what they're telling about the nature of reality? What you're learning in your own research.
Right. Okay. The like spirits or Sasquatch or it's all tied in.
It's all
it really is all tied in with the same, right? but the Sasquatch teach me more about, shaman type things like, using the chakras and energy clearing and everything like that. And then usually when I'm communicating with other spirits, it's to help them either deliver a message or to cross over and things like that. But basically, they've taught about karma and reincarnation and, about the chakras and the way that we need to live and love and respect one another. So, it all kind of ties in with the same. The Sasquatch teach how to live and be peaceful. I have ETs that teach me different, things on energy healing and how we can heal our own energy, as well as using like crystals to do that. And then some other spirits that, are speaking to me, they're needing forgiveness in their own life, so that they're teaching me the importance of that and, how that can affect our karma. Because, I can see some really tortured souls that all they're doing is hanging on because of some kind of emotion when they could let that go. So, that really helps teach me and to understand and to be aware of letting go of those kinds of things, and that, in the bigger picture, those little emotional ties don't matter. So,
right.
Focusing on love is more important than one could ever imagine. And I'm talking about unconditional love, because that's what they're talking about. And so you walk your path with unconditional love, and it's got to be genuine, and you've got to let go of your suspicions and whatever happened growing up or whatever the case may be, and to peel away some of those layers, because one experiences them and then they don't serve a person anymore. And yet many of us hang on to them, and the idea is to peel away and to let go as to a more pure heart, because this kind of research is of the heart, not of the head. So we have, I'm very academic for sure, but I've lectured at medical colleges and everything. But so what? The thing is that so many academicians are just hung up on the empirical model that is not serving us well at all. It needs to be revamped. It's so limited. It's so narrow. And I'm supposed to buy into that. They're supposed to tell me what reality is. No, I'm sorry. I found out myself, and they have, yes, it's a rigid system, but anecdotal information I discovered is extremely valuable, and a lot of valuable information has been thrown away or discarded somehow because they felt it's just, their own thing, that it has no value when it has tremendous value. So there's a lot of revamping that needs to be done, and I think that, it's like in physics, it's there's no black without white. There's no up without down. There's no male without female, or physical versus non-physicalness, and so forth. And so that seems to be the balance, and the science is very deficient of spirituality, and spirituality has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with respect for all living things. And this is what Dr. Jane Goodall discovered with the chimpanzees. So they're not following suit. They think they know more, and they don't. They're really hung up, and this is sad. They're really hung up, and that needs to be revamped, and we could have grown so much more. So love, on the other hand, is an important aspect here, because if you're holding on to love, you're going to attract good, positive love experiences. If you're holding on to the past and you're just smiling, but you're angry or you've got hatred or something, those are the experiences that person will draw to them. So the Bigfoot hunters that have all this anger and fear and all these things, and they got their guns on the ready, well, they're projecting to the Sasquatch, 50 or 100 miles away, that they're on the way to try to shoot him. That's why they never get him. So anyway, they need to let go of that but they don't see it, and that's okay. That's part of their karmic lessons and so on. And we just move on because I don't have time to butt heads. Too much going on.
It's interesting. It's like when they asked the Dalai Lama about Mr. Deng, who was killing a lot of Tibetans. The Dalai Lama said he's got a lot to learn. And so when I look at the academic people who have clung to the false doctrine of macro Darwinian evolution, I feel them needing the approval of their fellows and being worried about not having enough esteem. And I have a little bit of sympathy for them, and I can even resonate with parts of myself. I think it's important to not rail against the academicians who have just done the best they could given the constraints they were living with. But now it's time for them and us to move on and to consider a lot more than just empiricism. And it's, but I do have an empirical question that's really been bugging me. Lloyd has said, well, Sasquatch is able to be all over the place on every continent except Antarctica because he goes in the places that people in our society just pass through. They never stop and see, but Sasquatch is there physically in that space all the time in the forest and the tundra. But, of course, now we have this other way of looking at it. Maybe it's just a different dimension, and they're everywhere they want to be anyhow. And so if you could give us a little clarity on that, I'd really appreciate that.
Well, they told me they have access to 8 different dimensions, and that there are 7 different races of their people worldwide. Some are 3.5 to 4 feet tall. Some are 5.5 feet tall, those in Indonesia, and some between 6 and 7 feet, and so on, and right up to 15, 20 feet. Now, wow. A researcher would say that's ridiculous. It's gone way beyond. No, why would they lie? Why do other contactees give me information that matches what I've experienced and vice versa? So they've said certain things that what they saw, and it matches up, but some of the beings were different. They were taller and looked different. Now, I have documented 324 percipients that have had telepathic experiences with the psychic Sasquatch, and 17% of them had interdimensional or ET UFO encounters along with it, 17%. So William James said it only takes one white crow to prove that all crows are not black. Well, wait a minute. I have, analogously speaking, I have 324 white crows. How many more white crows do I need to prove that all crows are not black?
Well, the academics and the whole political and system is monetary based, and they're all worried about their jobs and
of
feeding
course,
their
of
kids.
course, yeah. And
Bigfoot isn't worried about that. They're operating out of a different system. They don't have money, so I think we could live more naturally and spiritually if we would get rid of money, which seems to be the creation of a slave system here in our planet.
Yes, and also, of course, to get their egos massaged, and that's important for them in being the great teachers, professors, passing on this information. And, here they're ignoring a Middle Eastern scholar and linguist like Zecharia Sitchin. But, I mean, can you just see them saying, yes, okay, it's all real. But look, then what they've been teaching for the last 200 years or 150 years, whatever you want to say, in years, is all nonsense. How embarrassing. But that's all they have to do. That's the only tool.
Science, we just have hypotheses, which are intervening variable sets that help us account for data. And, of course, they're all going to be approximations that we throw out. That's just how it is.
Yeah, it's interesting that some of just about all the researchers say, well, we don't get involved with this psychic stuff and UFO stuff. It has nothing to do with Bigfoot. So if we get any reports, we just trash them. Now, wait a minute.
Wow.
Isn't that subjective data collecting, which has nothing to do with the empirical method? And they're claiming they're scientific and I'm not, when I objectively followed the evidence to where it led. And it led to a psychic Sasquatch with a UFO connection. No apologies. It's the objective truth. And part of the 324 people were 3 physicians, an attorney, 3 college professors, and 2 scientists, plus people from all walks of life. Why would they risk their reputations and though I'm not telling names kind of thing, but why would they? Because some people would tell their names. So unless it was true,
So imagine how the academics are of having this information widespread. They feel extremely threatened by it. And these there must be some nice way to not threaten people, but let them celebrate more information.
Yeah, maybe I should.
Also, our governments are taking their psychic abilities and information and developing, their programs and doing remote viewing, and so they're very interested in, Montauk, and they're very interested in psychic abilities. It's just, I guess they're constructed or they've put it out in some kind of social way with the giggle factor, making fun of it, that the academics throw it out because they follow down that thread, they'll lose their jobs and income source.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all this has already been proven, and besides, psychic phenomena, but people say, no, it hasn't, and all this. They argue while the government's been using that starting in Russia back in the 1960s, having psychic spies and remote viewing, all this stuff. It's nothing new, just that they don't talk about it. The average person doesn't get to hear it. So it's important to understand that I used to think it was just the public at large, but it's the researchers as well, and many, many, many of the academicians that are way behind in this kind of reality. And if they took a real harsh look, that would they would start to wonder that this seems like it could be real, and of course it is. Maybe I should sit down with a Sasquatch and have one of these skeptics kidnapped, and then they'll finally believe,
Right. So what if...
Well, just about still on the physical, this guy that was camping in Pennsylvania, and suddenly he's in his bag and with all his stuff, and he was taken to a Sasquatch home, and they wanted to adopt him and didn't want to let him go and wanted to be part of the family. But he mentioned a sunken stone enclosure that would have really neat, well done stonework. Is that atypical, or do they have stuff like that? Do they have dwellings on the earth?
Yeah, it is atypical, but they're highly intelligent beings beyond what, again, that the average person would ever think. They just don't care about technology, but they've got so much ability that's built right into them. I mean, beyond anything, beyond telepathy or dematerializing, beyond that. So, I've only seen the tip of the iceberg, and that's startling and kind of thing. But they mostly will live in a cave. They will make nests in a thick forest, where it's really thick, and sleep there. I've found some even in Oregon where they look like big beds that the boughs of conifers were broken off and laid down, and you could see the 10-foot beds and stuff. So they have that, and they can go through a portal to another dimension. Mm-hmm. Now, some people say, oh, they probably hibernate. Well, I haven't asked them directly, but they go through the portals a lot, and where it's not winter. And when they're here, I've asked them, in fact, it was last year, I asked them, I said, I've wondered, but never had the opportunity to ask you, how do you people stay warm when it doesn't seem to make a difference? And when it's hot and you guys are in the desert, you seem to let that not bother you when you have hair. And they said to me, we can control our body temperatures. Mm-hmm. So And if several people experienced one person, he's not a researcher, but he's an experiencer. I told him, if you ever get into trouble, call on them. And he was in their area out in Arizona, and he slept in the bed of his truck in a sleeping bag, but he grabbed the summer bag rather than the winter bag, even though it was spring, but it got down to really cold and he was freezing. And he remembered what I said, so he telepathed to them, hoping they'd hear him. And he said within about less than 2 minutes, he started to feel warm. First he felt a presence, then he felt warmth. And he said he got warmer and warmer and warmer. Finally, he said he was sweating, and he had to call out and say, "It's okay now. You don't have to go anymore, do any more." And that's what they did. Now, my wife Kelly here, she had an experience too. When I told her about this one, she said, "Well, wait a minute. This just happened to me." And that was before we were married, just before we were married. This happened. Maybe she could share that now about you and Amy. Hiking and you got cold and.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we were just my friend and I hiking down a trail, and it's a known place that I'd like to visit because I seen the Sasquatch and feel their spirit there, and leave gifts and all of that. And we came to the part where they are specifically to where we really wanted to meet them, and we just were overcome with the chills. It was so cold, and it had, the temperature had dropped, and I had asked them, if they could help us to stay warm, and immediately we were both, just filled with a warm sensation. It felt like somebody had put a fur coat on us, and we were fine for the rest of the time.
This is in the Ozark Mountains of
Yes.
Arkansas.
Yes.
What do you think they were doing? What were they actually doing to keep you warm?
They have
idea?
psychic ability. They have psychic ability that they can project to other people, and people don't realize what they can do. They can levitate objects if they want to.
Yeah, I've asked them to change the weather, or to move the clouds, or to stop it from raining where I'm at, or whatever, and they've done it. It's not all the time, because sometimes nature has to take its course for its own reason. But if it's not inconvenient and it's possible, then they'll go ahead and make whatever changes that you want, or that that we've asked for.
Of course, with Brew Joy, well, a whole bunch of us, we learned how to make heat go through chi go through our hands, and could transfer it, and we're just regular people, right, into another person. So I can see how an active will can send energy and heat.
Yes.
Yes, I remember back in September of 1986. I was going through some emotional things, and I was just uptight in general. And so I thought, it'd be nice to just sit and talk with someone. And I thought, I'll go up to where I meet with them, the ancient ones, the ones with the human face, and talk with them. So I sat under a tree, and once I got into their area, and telepath, and I didn't get anything. And so I just was really disappointed to a point I felt depressed, really depressed. So I started walking out, and as I was walking, somebody was walking behind me. I'd stop, it would stop. When I walk, it would walk. And this is a pattern I get with them. So all of a sudden, I stopped and telepathed to whoever was there. And then I turned, didn't get any answers. I turned to walk out, and there she was. It was a female, about 6'5", and I started to explain to her what was going on, but she already could read me completely. I didn't have to use words, but I just barely got a sentence out to tell her my woes, and she sent this, I'm going to call it a bazooka of love energy. A beam hit me right in the heart, right in the chest, and it touched my soul. It went to every layer of my being, down to my very soul, and I just bursted into tears and wept and wept. for a few minutes while I was thanking her. And I just felt the healing was just enormous. It was just fantastic. So their love is incredible when they did it that way. Now, some people say, well, maybe some Christian fundamentalists say, well, wait a minute, these are just dark beings. These are satanic beings, and they're this and that, and it's baloney. It has nothing to do with that. For one thing, God and love are synonymous. They're one and the same. So the devil or anyone on the dark side doesn't have any love. So and God is not in their life. So therefore, they don't have any love to give. So how could they send a beam of love to me that felt wonderful and changed my life, that affected me? So not even the devil could conjure up love because it's of God and they are not of God. So we feel this has happened to me, I don't know how many times, just sitting or talking to them. So over and over again, actually. So we're very comfortable with where we're at, and we don't go there to destroy any relationship we have by start labeling them evil.
Right, so they're aligned with goodness and love and light, and so you can tell because of the energy that they
Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message.
Tune in Tuesdays at 12 noon Eastern on Studio A to hear Tammy Adams share her knowledge of an unknown realm on Talking with Your Angels. Join Tammy as she uncovers hidden secrets about the spiritual world of angels, ghosts, and other entities that have been with us longer than we know. Tammy is a psychic, a teacher, spiritual coach, a leader in her field, and will be sharing her information and stories with you. So join us on Tuesdays at noon on Studio A. With Tammy's guidance, you'll find out who has been watching over you from the other side, and soon you will be talking with your angels.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. And I'm your host, Janet Lesson, with my co-host, Dr. Sasha Lesson. And today we are interviewing Kawaunee Lapseritis and Kelly Lapseritis. But before we get back to our show, I'd like to remind everybody that Revolution Radio is listener-supported. So please walk your fingers over that donation button right now and donate what you can. $1, $5, $15, $20, $100, whatever you can donate will be greatly appreciated. And we do thank you very much for your donations, because your donations help us bring these shows to you, which are legion. All right, we're back to our show. Dr. Lesson, what would you like to say before we bring back Kelly and Kawaunee?
We're going to learn more about Bigfoot, Sasquatch.
Okay, welcome back.
Yes.
Thank you.
Funny. Thank you. We've got a lot to cover. the second hour, I'd like to go talk to you, Kelly, a little bit about, you said that you are a spiritual life coach and wellness educator for both the spirits and the living. Tell us what that means.
Yes, well, I assist others, since I've been involved in coming out more about, sharing my truth and the messages that come from the Sasquatch and the star people and things. I have a lot of people that just want more advice and wisdom that I could offer and, to share that. So I help people just on their spiritual path and explain to them how they can meditate and eat a healthier alkaline diet and, do things in their life, like letting go of anything that doesn't serve them and inviting anything that does, anything loving in. So I coach and I help people with that. And then beyond that, with the helping spirits, it's not something I really do as a profession, but it's just my truth and something that comes to me is there's many spirits that come to me, asking for help or to deliver messages, and they come in various ways. And it's something I used to kind of be afraid of and didn't want to bother with. And, when I was younger, I was still under the, ghost assumption, and it was something kind of scary to me. And then I let go and realized that these are just people and they're just bored or they have a problem or something and they want my help. So, I let go of that fear, and now a lot of times I either, pass on a message that they have to a loved one, or I also help some souls to cross over peacefully, because they'll, I'll be able to tune into them in whatever situation that they're in, and they need help to cross over or help getting ready to do so and resolving whatever issue that they have. So, it's like I said, it's not something that I've really done professionally, but just through kind of trial and error of communicating with these different spirits. But now I'm really finding that it's very rewarding when I do it. It's, it's emotional for them, emotional for me, and it really helps their loved ones as well. So it's a great experience and, just healing so many different souls.
I guess being more interdimensional in our approach to life, that these gifts, we have different gifts, like myself as a master dowser and everything, and then Kelly with her gifts. So, there's nothing unusual or shouldn't be viewed as anything weird, because these are just gifts that people had for years, but were hiding them. So she has access to the spirit dimension, and that's wonderful. And she can help people. So interdimensionalism is, if people don't like the word psychic or interdimensional, then they should say quantum physics, because it's mainstream science. It's what it is. So people get squirrely about it, but it's quantum physics.
I agree. I'm so glad that you have this ability, Kelly, because I've been doing this all my life. And often the dead will come to me. They might be trapped in the bardo. They don't know which way to go. Sometimes you don't even know they're dead. And they are very much in need of therapy. I work with the living, doing therapy for years with Dr. Lesson, part of my counseling practice. But the dead have been coming to me as well as you. So I think it may be far more common than we, believe here in our society because of the stigma around it. But I think that more of us that can come out and say, yeah, I work with the dead and they come to me and I can live it's better. So we're coming out of the closet now. We just had the LGBT people got their same-sex marriages, and now it's time for the experiencers and for psychics to come out of the closet, because the whole picture of the nature of this reality is being hidden because of the blame shame game that goes on around people that have these extraordinary abilities like you do, Kawaunee and Kelly.
Exactly. And I've just really come to realize that, just here recently, what a real blessing it is, because I helped a young man who was just killed, and his soul was kind of stuck in the moment of his death. And, anyhow, I reached out to try to find out, more about who he was, because this was something that was in the papers. He was murdered, and I wanted to know more details. There were no names out there. And so I got his name and a photograph so that I could feel like I could really work with him more comfortably and know who I'm dealing with. And I helped him to cross over. And so all of his loved ones were just thanking me so much, and they just felt so much peace over it. And it just made me realize how many lives I really helped heal in this process, and such a tragic event. And, I was able to explain to them how, their loved one's not gone, and how he's still here watching, and, that basically he sacrificed himself for the greater good of, whatever it is. And it really helped them, ease their mind and their hearts, even though it's still, a tragedy. It helps kind of bring a community together as well.
Yeah, we're as dead. All of us are as dead now as we'll ever be. Mm-hmm. We just change dimensions. That's what it's about. It's not about fear or joining a religion or something. If a person feels comfortable with a religion, fine. I have nothing against any of that. But one doesn't need it if they don't want it. And certainly prayer is talking to God, and meditation is quieting the intellectual mind and listening to God and getting the guidance that we need through life. So there's a lot of things.
You think of a thing like Bell's theorem, that anything once in contact is always instantaneously in contact, and that temporality or time or space are merely intellectual, hypothetical variables, but everything's really interconnected. And but of course, when you do that, that means that there's no Satan or no evil too, because that's too part of the creation. And if everything is part of everything else in that too, it's just what appears as a separation, but it's really part of a still larger picture. At least that's an interesting way to look at it.
Yes, exactly. That's true. And the contact with all these beings have really helped me to understand that and think of, the bigger picture with all of that. And it's a real blessing to be so aware, and especially when you can see that most of the world isn't.
Yeah, and so A.R. Borton calls it topological thinking, that you can be both dead and alive, and in more than one place at the same time, in more than one dimension at the same time. And the thought that those things are separate is merely just a thought that's between you and direct experience of everything.
Exactly. And Janet, I think that's wonderful too, that you're able to connect with souls as well. Gives me hope.
Well, it's difficult when the rest of the world isn't doing it, and so you tend to hide it from the world because you don't want to be, made fun of. But I'm glad that you came out and said it. I was excited to see that on your bio.
Yes.
So that's fantastic. In this next hour here, I thought it'd be great if Kawaunee, if you want to go over a little bit more of your research and the message that you want to bring to our listeners, so we can kind of listen for a little bit here and let you go into it more in depth. And thank you for bearing with us and answering all of our questions.
Yes. Well, where would you like me to begin?
I have to admit, I haven't had a chance to read your books, and so I'm not sure of the nuances of your research, and you might have some important information that you want to convey to our listeners. So I'll let you go. Then if you get to a place where you want us to ask a question, just say, okay, I'm ready for the next question. Because we'll think of questions as you're speaking.
Okay. I think just to start, I'd like to read something that was written by Halodi, who is a shamanist. She's an ancient one. She's about 6'4", 6'5", right now, and about 39 or 40 from what I can judge. And but I had a lot of interactions with her, and she can actually print. She can write, not longhand. She doesn't understand longhand, but printing, and she doesn't know a lot of words, but she wanted to learn it, so she did, and she left a note for me when I asked her about interdimensionalism and how all the different things she was doing around me. And she said, you, I'm going to quote, you world not same as our world. She means your, but she put you in all these. So I'm going to say the word your. Okay. Your world not same as our world. Your time not same our time. Your space not same our space. A thin cloth hang between these places that open and shut. There is no I or me. We are all one. Each one is part of the whole. What one does, all do. You may see us as Brother Crow or Brother Wolf. Listen to the stones. Speak to the trees. So this is a part of her interconnectedness, she's saying, of all living things. And in my other book, I was stressing how in each one, because they make that emphasis of a oneness, and even the Dalai Lama says, if you realize that we're all interconnected, then who can you harm? In Chief Seattle says,
right.
Chief Seattle says, if you spit on the earth, you spit on yourself. So there's this interconnectedness that Aboriginal peoples have known for eons, kind of thing, because they lived and felt and experienced the earth 24/7, where we have divorced ourselves from it. And now that we look back to it, it's frightening, the wilderness. I tried to think which medicine man said this, but he's one of the famous medicine people, First Nations people, said the forest was always our home. Everything we need was there, and we had such great peace. The forest never became the wilderness until the pioneers and the white people came. Then it became wild.
Woo. Oh.
So that says a lot.
So our invasion into their parts changed the structure of the forest in some way. Was it more food to eat or something? What happened? Did it wipe out species? Is that what you're saying?
Please.
How did that change it so it became wilderness and it's no longer forest?
Right. Well, it's the European whites, and now it's us, that often just view any wild area. We feel so, not myself or Kelly, but most people feel disconnected, and they're afraid to go into forests. The first thing you're there, the bear's going to get you. They're just sitting, waiting around, drinking coffee. Can't wait to get the first tourist or hiker. But that's not true. It's just in people's minds. And certainly situations happen, with bears or mountain lions and so on. But they are more rare than they are an everyday occurrence. They're extremely rare. But that interconnectedness, back in 1981, I lived on a wilderness island interacting with a Sasquatch there. And before I left, the Potawatomi medicine man, Wallace Piawasit, who's now passed on, told me, he said, Kawaunee, you flow with nature. Every night you face west and you thank the Creator for every little thing you can think of that occurred that day, and talk to nature. So I started doing that. In the first few days or first week, especially in the first couple of days, I felt weird, strange, hearing my voice talking aloud to the universe, to God, to the Great Spirit. But it got interesting immediately because I let go. I was already letting go because I'm a wilderness person. I spent most of my life living and visiting wilderness areas. I lived on the Amazon even, and so on. So this I don't want to lose my trend of thought here. Yes, so when I was out there, the rabbits would come up to me in the evening and jump on my legs and look up at me every single evening. Not one time did they miss a pair of woodcocks. They're birds that are very chesty, and they have long, thin beaks. And so they would land at my feet every evening while the rabbits were running around me. Birds would come and try to land on my head. This happened constantly. It was in the evening when I let go and was praying out loud, and it was the most incredible experience I've ever had. And during my time in other wilderness areas, a wolf, a bear, a snake, 2 hawks, 3 ravens, and these are all separate times, talked to me. And so this was a great revelation, because the first thing you could say, well, wait a minute, how did that snake learn English? I didn't see him in school. So, or the hawk or whatever. Something happens in not the conscious mind, not the unconscious mind, but I believe in the superconscious. That is, in a person's soul, in the God self, the soul self, that it transliterates those feelings that snake had that I almost stepped on when he said, "Don't step on me, I'm a snake. Don't step on me, I'm a snake." And a squeaky voice, and I thought, what? This is bizarre. And I looked down, and 2 feet away, I was just going to step on a snake. So it transliterates somehow, because this is a part of the mind that we've not really understand. But because all of these other beings and animals are talking to me, and it comes out in English, it has to be some type of transliteration going on, and I feel it's on a soul level.
Fascinating. Sasha, any questions?
No, but my cat sends me pictures all the time of what she wants.
Okay, go ahead. What else would you like to tell us?
Well, I spent 5 months out on that island, and it did change my life. It was interesting because when I came out, I had long hair and a long because beard, and the first thing I thought of when I saw myself in a motel room, it's kind of scary because because of eating wild foods and everything, I was very trim. Not that I wasn't trim before, but I was extra trim, and I looked like Robinson Crusoe. So, yeah, I looked pretty wild, and I was a little squirrely when it came to being around people again. And it was really a strange thing to feel, but on the way home, it took me a while I drove the long way home, and going back to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, from Michigan, and I stopped and saw a movie because I had been living in a tent for 5 months, and when I stood in line, people were gawking at me and even backing away from me. So I said, "Yeah, okay, wow. I guess I do look like Robinson Crusoe, But that's how you have to live. You can't, some people want to solve this mystery by going out with a gun on weekends or take 2 weeks off vacation or a month off even. First of all, that's the wrong field methodology. And secondly, you bring no guns or cameras, not even cameras. So we can bring cameras. I can and Kelly can, because we don't try to do anything. And they refer to us as family. So they're not afraid of us and we're not afraid of them. It's just really, it grew into this very interesting situation, and
can you bring your cameras out around them, or are they like the Amish, they don't want to be photographed?
Well, they don't want to be photographed, and they can affect the camera so it comes out blurry, or what researchers call a blog squatch. So I've got a lot of people saying, I truly, absolutely, they're talking to me. They're here. I got pictures, and they're great pictures. And they'd send me maybe 15 pictures or 10 or whatever. All you see is a big blob, black blob. I know these people were having experiences. I absolutely know it because they explain what they're explaining. They wouldn't know unless they had them. But, it's as clear as they can get them. So they said they didn't want to be exploited by anyone. And that selling, one for, $500,000 or whatever, or a whole series of them for $1 million, is what a lot of people have in mind. Where myself, going out as a scientific researcher, I went out simply to find the truth. I didn't really have an agenda. I must admit in the beginning, I said, well, maybe I would be able to be one of the first, to get a picture of them. But I never, most of the time, I never brought a camera. I wasn't neurotic about it or about getting proof. I did examine everything that I found, and Dr. Kenneth Sigsman, a forensic scientist that did work for the Secret Service and for the FBI, was doing all of my analysis using he's an expert in the electron microscope. So for years, he did all of my work for hair, comparing hair, not fur, it's hair. They're humans. So all kinds of different things, feces and so on, and some of the plaster Paris casts that had dermal ridges in them that told people, well, they have dermal ridges because it's like a fingerprint. When you step in clay, in the right kind of soil that's clay-like, you'll get these impressions, and you can see it's not a cutout from a board, and that somebody ran, or some college student ran around in the snow to try to prove that Bigfoot's out there, So this is very different, and nobody seemed interested except a few friends and neighbors. So it's not the way to go. I asked them, I guess about 8 or 10 years ago, if they were interested in giving me a tooth, either from an elderly that came out or from a juvenile. And they didn't say yes or no, but they said something like this. They said, little brother, we know you are not like the others, the other researchers. You have such an open heart. So let's not go there with this. It is not what we are focused on at this moment. This conversation has ended. They weren't rude or anything. It was simply that, if that's what you're going to talk about, we have no interest in it. And, because I told them it would prove, their DNA would prove that they're human and so on and so forth. But I stopped doing that. They have a council of elders that dictate to their people about how to stay alive, basically, how to survive around, hostile, aggressive white people that are out there hunting and so forth, or just people in general. So,
did you see their footprints? Do they have flat feet or do they have arches?
No, they have flat feet.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do they have any kind of social structure? Do they live in tribes or towns, or do they have any kind of governance? Do you know anything about their organization?
I know very little about their social structure, other than they do have a council of elders that rule. If you want to break off from the council of elders, you can do so and be on your own. That is, the tribe, if you're complaining and you don't like they thought, one of the things that happened is they thought these Sasquatch that were against what the elders were saying thought I was given too much information. So they were not crazy about me as a person. So they branched off on their own, and they're a little aggressive, but they don't kill people, but they're a little aggressive. In other words, don't come around us. You people have clear cut, destroyed, dug up, mined, and polluted all the water, so stay away from us, leave us alone. We're just trying to survive here. And that's pretty much what they're saying. The other end of the continuum here, those that want to connect with us and had that desire for years have to choose the right people, what they call light bearers, or we always say light workers. That is people who are compassionate, people who care about people, people who are people, kind of things. And so they're the ones that they want to interact with because they're the only sane ones. The other people have this dark side that want to shoot anything that doesn't look like a good-looking human being in their eyes. So we have this problem.
Do they have any tips of the destruction and how it could reach to a global level and wipe out the whole planet and their existence? And if so, since they are conscious, sentient life forms, do they have any ideas of how to, resolve this problem?
Well, they said that their ET friends went to major presidents and prime ministers all over the world, and they didn't say how many or whom exactly, but the major ones, they said, and discussed this and told them to stop all the nuclear development and everything. And it had already, it was too little, too late kind of thing. It already has snowballed into something different and evil that is happening on the planet. They said World War III has already started. They just haven't shot the missiles over yet. In New York City and Washington, D.C. are the two prime targets. But they'll be coming in from the north and even from the west. America will be under attack, most likely because of a civil war that'll weaken our whole society. You see, the leaders aren't who you think they are. That's all I'm going to say. So, there's too many lemmings, now, and it's not good. Our technology has superseded our spiritual development, so we don't have respect, even any self-respect anymore. We just as soon attack, anyone. Can you believe since our nation started in 1776, July 4th, basically officially, we've been in 247 wars? What's going on here? Why do we have to be in all these wars? It's because, again, so it's affecting the whole world. The planet's dying right now. Our aggression is in business. We're mining, clear cutting, drilling oil, fracking, all this stuff, and we don't seem to care. We think we can handle it all when 80% of the fish and marine life in the ocean are already gone. They're dead.
Well, that also might be
Just
part of this other agenda. You said we don't know who's really running the show, but there appears to be other species that are basically terraforming the planet for their agenda, and so they have a different type of environment that they live in, which is I guess full of toxic waste and nuclear fallout, waste and stuff like that. But that's part of the theory, the conspiracy theory, which we have researched, and the different Anunnaki factions, and there's all these different stories. What was I going to say? I forgot my friend, but I just want to interject that I know what I want to say. Are they in contact with any extraterrestrial species that maybe, have the greater wisdom or the ability to assist? There's a lot of people waking up on the planet. There's not everybody wants to shoot guns. I've never been a gun shooter. And a lot of people are pacifists, and, they don't support war. And I live in Maui, and that's basically pretty much the whole population here. Not a lot of warlike people here. So are there extraterrestrial species that your Sasquatch friends are in touch with that might be working with humanity, or that they're working with that can resolve this? Because it's their planet too. If it's dead, it's dead for all of us.
Yes, well, I'll just say this, that, it may be too late, okay? I was told by 1990, if we didn't, the ancient one said, if they haven't turned things around by 1990, it'll be too late. It'll be running amok. and everything will start to go downhill. The Hopi prophecies say that, if we hadn't straightened up by a certain time frame, which I think, I'm not positive, maybe 2003, but whatever the time frame is, that we're past that, which means it goes into the great purification that they spoke of. Well, the Sasquatch talk about the sacred purification, which is the same thing. In other words, it's purging the planet of all negative energy, and those people that are causing the negative effects from their negative energy are those that are going to be purged. I don't care how many underground bunkers you got. I don't care who you think you are. It's not going to work. It won't work. And so it's interesting that how this is unfolding, because those that have think they have it made when they really are walking into the jaws of the lion, simply because karma works. They're working against the spiritual laws of the universe that somehow God, whether it be he, she, or it, laid out somehow in an energetic way, and we're plugged into them whether we believe it or not. So when we understand those laws and start working with them, as the Sasquatch has told us, then better things happen. And, but they like to see the whole planet that way. But they said that's not a reality.
We have to change ourselves, basically. I know that the ETs, several different races of them and groups of them, work with individuals through their consciousness to help them, change themselves and heal themselves. And that's where it all lies. We need to be happy and at peace with ourselves to share that with the rest of the world. And, so the ETs are here helping, but they can't do anything in mass, just like one individual can't do anything in mass, But they are here assisting, working through our consciousness and helping us. And from what I understand is, through the Hopi prophecies and what the Sasquatch and Star people have told me, is that it's true that, there was a point where, we crossed now, that it is too late at this point to really save humanity as we know it or as we're thinking. But that doesn't mean that it's the end of everything. It's like he said, we need to, the earth will basically be purging all of that negative energy. So this is something that needs to occur, and something that basically has already occurred in the universe, which is the reason that prophecies were able to be written about it. It's because it's an event that has already occurred because it was meant to.
Yeah, I'd like to, I have my book here in my second book. I'd just like to read a paragraph that sort of fits with this. The Sasquatch people say that since 2000, they're coming out more and allowing themselves to be seen worldwide. It's no coincidence, because these beings have a psychic network that can communicate to other races of their people anywhere on the globe. They want to sensitize the public and validate that they do indeed exist and are a part of our physical world. They have already repeatedly said that if man continues at the rate of destruction of the biosphere, with our dysfunctional socio-political behavior and blasé attitude towards ecological issues, then all races, including humanity, are doomed. To save the planet is to save ourselves, as well as our Sasquatch neighbors. So these are, if they were made a part, if they were allowed to be a part of society years ago, rather than the pioneers shooting at them, because they stepped out. If you go back into these old newspapers, in Ohio, in Indiana, in Massachusetts, and so on, that date back to the very late 1800s and very early 1900s, it describes these encounters. They just said the wild man was seen, blah, 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 blah. Or one of them said a strange wild man, very large and hairy, stepped out. And while, Peter Jones and Dave Smith were out hunting deer or something like that. And they shot and wounded it and tracked it, but lost the track. This kind of thing. So as soon as this starts to happen, they spread word to their tribe and other tribes. Stay away from these crazy people. They have something that that's a gun, and they don't know anything about us. They don't even want to know. They just start shooting at us. So stay away from them. They're dangerous. So we've endangered the entire earth. So right now, Homo sapiens sapiens are the endangered species. This is getting crazy, but we're living it now. This is it.
Okay. I'm interested in the family structure. Are they monogamous? Are they polyamorous? Do they? How long are the children juveniles? Can you tell me a little bit about their life together, how they live?
Not until I live with them and ask them more questions, but overall, they're very loving family units that are within a clan that's in the same geographic area somewhere that are maybe spread out over, I'm going to guess and say, even 100 square miles, that they would have several clans, and then they would get together once a year for meetings and how to survive out there with people hunting, and now that they have all this technology and so forth. So these are the things that they educate and spend time together and heal the sick and so on when they come together as a tribe. So
do they sing and dance?
I'm sorry?
Do they sing? Do they dance? Do they do rituals?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Kelly can answer still a little bit more, but they do all those things that humans do pretty much, but there's without the technology, without a blasting television and boom boxes and stuff. So they're more of a peaceful beings that are just flow with nature. Kelly,
how long do they live?
They said 150 to 160 years old. However, in these other dimensions, they may be living longer. And that may sound crazy, but, they are also, they can travel into the future. I don't know how they do it, but they took me 12 years into the future before. Then they erased it and brought me back at the same time. But I have all this additional knowledge and the complete experience within me. And they said that'll all come to the fore when the time is right for me to use all that they taught and all the awesome things that they said I saw.
Has any of it happened? Have you come on any of the things that they taught and said, that was one of the things?
No, not yet. They spoke, well, except for Kelly.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, because they did tell me 5 weeks before Kelly called me, they said, soon you're going to meet your soulmate. And they explained, what a little bit of what she looks like, who she is, and just in general. And they said it'll be a major event in my life that will change my life. And at the time I said, well, I'm not sure about that, kind of thing, but it has. It absolutely has. And it helped me. It's bringing me to the next level. And for Kelly, with me, as we kind of dovetail together, it's bringing her to the next level. So it's like our little imbalances are the opposite. So we're functioning as one. It's like a major tune-up between two people in order to succeed at certain projects, in order to contribute to humanity this trip around.
Wow, that's sweet. Kelly, I'd like to hear a little bit more from you. Can you tell us about your experiences with Sasquatch and extraterrestrials?
Sure thing. Well, it's been a lifelong thing. And, when I was younger, it's something that I accepted and then, started to deny as I got older and realized that other people weren't having those kinds of experiences like I would with extraterrestrials and different spirits. But I was not aware that I was in contact really or being watched or guided by the Sasquatch people until just a few years ago. But I've always had a real deep love for nature, and just, always looking up at the sky and the stars and wanting to sit by a tree my whole life. I've always felt this real deep connection to that, and to the, what I thought was a myth or legend of Bigfoot, even though I completely believed that he existed, but then I guess it was around 32, 33, was when the Sasquatch really revealed themselves to me and started just teaching me, different life lessons, and connecting me with Kawaunee, basically, and telling me more about ourselves and our life together. They teach me a lot of different things about my son, who has autism, and it allows me to understand him so much more, as well as understand the Sasquatch people, even, because I've come to realize that his behavior and way of thinking is very similar to theirs. It's a pure, innocent, way of being, and using just, kind of pure emotion and instinct to live. That's, how my son is, and that's how they are. But they've taught me different shamanic practices that they use, in meditation, as well as how to manifest things through visualization, and using tones like, drum beats and rattles and things to kind of set that energy in motion. And so that they do that themselves, like you asked earlier, if they sing and dance. And yes, they do, but it's not quite the way that we would sing and dance. It's more tones, and it is a harmony, but it's different tones that they use to connect to a higher vibration. But it's really this connection with the star people and the spirits, angels, Sasquatch, all of it has just completely changed my life around. And now in retrospect, my life finally makes more sense now that I understand this deep connection, because for so long I felt kind of lost, like I didn't quite belong here. And I realized I was, a little bit different from others. And now I'm able to really blossom. They've, taught me how to just let go and let God, and be confident in who I am, and sharing my truth. And it's made all the difference since I've been true to myself. Now there's miracles happening all around me, and, I've been blessed with this wonderful life, and, being together with my twin flame now. And, like he said, it's really just expanded everything in my life and who I am, just to be with him, and to, feed off of each other's energy, and to help each other grow in the areas where we both need it.
Wow. Kelly, could you imitate the sounds so that we might hear at a Happy Sasquatch gathering?
I can't. It's very throaty. I really can't. It's similar to, the sounds that you've heard on recordings and things like that. Now they'll use rattles and drums, but of course they don't really have access to those kind of things. They make their own, or, you hear them knocking on trees and things, and that's also a part of it. It's also part communication too, but they will use trees and the ground to, do different vibrations. But as far as their sounds, I really would do a terrible job trying to imitate it, because they sound, it sounds kind of human, but it also sounds kind of animal-like. But there's really nothing like it. I've never heard anything quite like those sounds.
What other species or extraterrestrials have you been interacting with?
I'm not really sure of all of the species or races, but I could describe, what they look like. I've never really asked where they were from, and the times that I was really questioning it, I actually got a response of, it doesn't really matter because we're all one. They're not focused on those things like we are. But I know that collectively the Arcturians speak to me, which is more of like a group. But then I've also had individuals from the Pleiades and from different star systems that I'm not really aware of speak to me. But I know that most of the star people that I'm in communication with are on the same mothership, the same starship that my own higher self belongs to. It's kind of my second home. When I'm not here on Earth, when I'm unconscious, a lot of times I'm on the starship. I don't even know exactly what sometimes I'm downloading, getting a download of different information. And sometimes they're working with my DNA because I also have hybrid children. And I couldn't even really tell you which hybrid they are because it doesn't matter. Apparently it's going to be a new race. It's like a new human race that I guess has more advanced capabilities than we do now.
Interesting. A lot of people have hybrids, and it's not just all the grays. There's different hybrid children, different species, so that's coming out. Let's see. I wanted to ask either one of you about the star people. Could either of you tell us more about who are these star people? What was their agenda? Why did they bring species from one planet to another? Do you have any information on that?
Well, it's very interesting that it's like, in many ways, Star Trek. And on these ships, there's all kinds of different beings. And they're exploring the universe. When I asked once about, why they genetically engineering people and so on, and the answer I got was, it was a command from God. So is Jesus Christ, and I mean no offense by this, but is Jesus Christ an ET? And when he rose into heaven, into a cloud, was that his spaceship waiting for him? So, this is not ridiculous. We've got to get real on some things, and he did a lot of things that ETs do. So I don't know, and I say this all this respectfully, but I just uncertain of that. But there are all kinds of beings out there that have been here for millions of years, and they have bases under the ocean, they told me, and even in underground, and some of them in the Great Lakes and inside of dormant volcanoes. They have complete cities, and when these lava tubes were formed, these are simply corridors, and as they branch out, they have different departments and stuff to do their scientific work. And the Sasquatch, some of them are recruited to do mining work. For example, a woman that I knew was very spiritual, because I'm real careful about this, and but I had never met her, from Southern California. She had 2 experiences, very brief, with telepathy from the Sasquatch, and she found my book and so forth, and then contacted me. Well, she asked me if I could help her, so I said, okay, send me maps of an area you want to go into. So she sent me 3 maps that were of the forest and 1 map of the high desert. There were 0 Sasquatch in the forest, and there were 2 of them in the high desert doing mining work with spaceships landing and leaving all the time. So I told her this, and I marked and sent it to her. I marked the map where she should go. She doesn't have to go anywhere. I said, the Sasquatch will come to you. And I explained how to do that and where to camp and everything. So unbeknownst to me, she thought I was nuts. She just said, what's he going off on this? They do mining work, and if there's ETs involved, this is crazy stuff. And, then she was going to disprove it. So she went out there, camped out, started a fire at night, and to stay warm. It was in January, and a Sasquatch came to the edge of her campsite. And after it left, she saw on the map, she did this before it got dark. She saw where down in the valley, where this 3/4 of a mile away, they were doing the mining. And she said all night long until she went to bed, there were spaceships landing and taking off there every so many minutes. And she said one of them went over her camp. And I told her, to telepath, they'll hear you, even if they don't answer. So one went over, and she could see the windows and everything. She was fascinated. Then she says, hey, how about stopping down here and visiting me? And it stopped in midair and backed up instead of coming towards her. And all of a sudden, she said in her mind, it scared her. And she said, no, don't come down. Stay away. She didn't believe that they would do that. So at any rate, she was out to disprove me, but ended up proving that, these are my skills, and this is what I do, and this is my connection. So this has happened several times to people.
It says on the page I made for you, that took from your book, I think, Bigfoot has been coming and going from planet Earth, ferried by UFOs for millions of years. What are they doing, coming and going? Where do they go? And are they part of like the Federation? They travel from planet to planet?
In a sense, they dimension hop through different portals, just like in the Loch Ness monster. Well, it's not a monster; it's a dinosaur that goes in and out of a portal. That's why they can't find it, and because there's very few fish in there to feed such an animal. So portals are used. There's aquatic portals, terrestrial ones down here on the ground, and extraterrestrial portals in space. And this is what they use. I don't know quite what they were doing all those years other than exploiting the planet, mining without destroying it. They do go and mine. They mine crystals, they said, on a moon that goes around a planet in the Arcturian constellation. That was the closest they could get, and I wouldn't know one from another. But they said that the ETs, their ET friends, go there to mine certain crystals that they use in meditation. So there's many different reasons why. I don't know all of them, but they've been coming and going here for millions of years, and that they found tiny boot prints that were in coal underground in layers and layers of coal, perfect boot prints that were 440 million years old, almost a half a billion years old. So they've been coming here. I'm sorry?
Did you say they were teeny?
Yes, they were small. I mean, not tiny, but small. Yeah, they were small boot prints. I don't know, maybe they were 6 inches long or something. I'm not sure. 5 inches or something. That's what they look to me when I've seen pictures of them. So I'm saying they've been here forever. And, I believe that people like Emanuel Swedenborg, Tesla, Einstein, Buddha, many different people who incarnated here were really from another planet that was more evolved than us, that helped to push us ahead. I mean, back in the 1700s, Emanuel Swedenborg, he had published over 100 books in his lifetime, and some of them were on submarines and flying planes and all kinds of things that were quite remarkable. So it made people think ahead. So I believe that this is actually true, to force people ahead to think out of the box, so to speak, as we say. So I believe that the ETs have been influencing us right along on all of this. And the reason they don't step in, during the World War I or II or so on, they told me is because of the free will. They said if they told me how to have a perfect life, every time something came up, how to resolve it easily or avoid it, then I wouldn't experience anything or I wouldn't learn anything. So then my karma becomes their karma. That's what they told me. So they want to help us to save ourselves. They're not here to save us. They want us to save ourselves karmically. So it's like...
Well, I hope there's some way we can make it up for them and create a safe space for those who are peaceful, who want to meet with Bigfoot, can somehow have a meeting so they can feel like they can come out to us. We have 1 minute left. Would you like to share with our listeners how they can reach you and your books and everything?
Yes. If they go to... I have 2 websites and 2 books out. It's www.sasquatchpeople.com and also psychicsasquatch.com. So there's a lot of information there. I'm flooded with calls, with emails and letters from all over the world, people having experiences and wanting my help to put it in perspective. A lot of the information is already there, and teaching telepathy and everything in my books, and how to approach a spiritual field methodology that's respectful of them and not something aggressive like other researchers. So anyway, my books are available, and please do check out my websites. And thank you for having me.
Oh,
yes.
Okay. I'm doing the time wrong once again. But anyway, Karen, tell us a little bit more about your book that's coming up and what's it going to be about and what are you calling it? Sorry, Kelly. Karen's like...
Yes. Yes,
Kelly, tell us about your book coming up and what it's called and what's it going to be about.
Okay, I don't yet have a title for it. I'm still kind of writing it and deciding what the best title will be. But it's basically about, my own personal experiences, as well as how Kawaunee and I met. And, it'll go into more detail into the spiritual messages that the Sasquatch and the Star People have to share.
Great.
Yeah.
Any final words?
And it'll be updated on the Sasquatch People page on the websites and on the Facebook page, as well as more information becomes available about that.
And I'd like listeners to just realize what Kelly has done. She's come out, and we'd like to hear more of you come out, too. We know you had experiences, and don't be afraid to talk about them anymore.
Yes, thank you. Well, I'm not anymore. I'm happy and I'm honored to be able to do so.
That's wonderful. So we hope to have you play and over on our Experiences Network show. I'll contact you after this show because experiences are coming out. There's millions of them. They're telling their stories, and that's helping other people come forth and tell their stories. So there's an Experiences Day, October 1st of 2015, and we're encouraging people that if you have a story to contact us at Aquarian Radio at aquarianradio@gmail.com and tell us your story. You don't have to use your name. You can be anonymous. And together we will